So, what was your first impression of Letchworth Park, State Park?
Well, my first impression was I was overwhelmed by how beautiful the park was, how large it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I was positively impressed with Letchworth State Park. From the time we got there, I mean, it was beautiful, scenic, large. The sign, I mean, really, I thought that we were driving, that we were lost because it was so long before we got to check to the check-in place. Um, and then once we did get to the check-in center, I was just overwhelmingly impressed how cute it was, how rustic it looked, how nice the employees were, and how much information was readily available there at the center that they gave you, as well as that was just there free um, to share the information and things that were going on in the park as well as in the community.
Yeah, my first impression also was just on how large it was, how long we was having to drive to actually get to where the camping site was. And I guess we found out a little later on with all the trails and stuff is reason why it was probably so big. And then it was, very wooded. And so, those were parts that I really liked about it. What do you think about the actual campsite itself, your actual campsite?
Well, when we first got there, because where we stayed at anyway, it was a one-way street, and my first observation was that it was in a wooded area, so it kept with the theme of it being in a wooded area. A lot of times, when you go to some of the larger recreational, commercial um, campgrounds, you're just kind of like all thrown and they're stacked pretty close to one another. No trees, no anything. Well, this really had the atmosphere that you were like out camping, which was really nice. Yeah, so there were lots of coverage of trees. And actually, when we were there, it rained a great deal, but it really had little impact on our ability to camp or have our fire or anything like that because it had tree coverage, such great tree coverage. So the lot was, it was a fairly nice size. Like I said, we weren't stacked in. With a lot of people, but yet there were a good amount of campers there. We
Yeah.
had folks on our left and to our right, but it did not seem like we were on top of one another. There were trees kind of obscuring our the views so that we weren't like staring at each other. It came with the standard picnic table and um, fire pit, that were, in great condition. I think they were in great condition. The picnic table was nice. You know how you go some places and you kind of don't want to touch the picnic table,
Yeah.
but it was really clean. And um, the site was gravel. But that was okay. A lot of times people prefer the paved sites, and I do too for the most part, but it did not have any impact. It was cared for, and they only had electrical. So prior to us leaving, because we knew this, we had filled up our water tank. But I do know that they were very clear to point out when we checked in, like where we could get water at. They had like water faucets close, like I don't know how close, but they were pretty close to like every couple campers. That way you didn't have to travel far for water, as well as the bathhouses were relatively close. Um,
Yeah, it was the first time that we seen that someone was allowed to fill up their camper. We was really surprised to watch somebody pull up to one of the faucets and
yeah,
fill up their
yeah.
camper with water.
Yeah, and I mean that might be normal at state parks here in New York. I don't know because this was our first one, but I was kind of impressed. It was like, well, matter of fact, we didn't have to fill up at home. We could have gotten there and filled up our water line and before going to our site. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was very nice for them to do because the rates, we didn't even talk about
Oh
that.
yeah, we didn't talk about
That
that.
The rates were like amazing. How much did we pay for? We
I
stayed for
think
two
total two
days.
nights, $62, which
Yeah, which
most campsites are not even
yeah,
over that.
you go to one of your full hookups and you could pay 2 3 times as much for one night.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very well priced, and like I said, you could fill up your water, and they had dumping stations and all of that was included. So it was it was great. You know, it wasn't a full hookup, but it was great.